Welcome to Hockey Night in New York, where Islanders hockey always reigns supreme. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, Hockey Night in New York is your home for all things Isles. Now, let's drop the puck and get this party started.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Hockey Night in New York. Welcome to the program, everyone. It is Tuesday, March 31st, 2026. Coming at you live from Chris and Tony's in Syosset. Excited to be here. Arthur, the food here is incredible.
It smells amazing.
Right?
I don't know how I'm going to focus for the whole show.
We're going to try our best, and then we'll gobble up once we're done.
Awesome.
Sounds good. So thank you so much for tuning in here to Hockey Night in New York. Big game coming up for the New York Islanders after... Nothing happened last night, right?
No, I wasn't
even think they
watching
played.
TV last night. I don't think anything happened.
Yeah, who knows? But listen, before we dive in, want to thank our wonderful sponsor, Razor, Kniff, and Launstein, attorneys at law ready to fight for you. And if you tune into us live and you're in the live chat and you want to get your questions in for Questions Brewing, just type in Questions Brewing, followed by your question, and we will get to it later on in the show. So with that out of the way, Arthur Staple... Let's talk about what happened in this past week or so, huh?
Do we have to start last night, or can we go a little further back?
Thankfully, we can go further back,
okay,
and then we can worry about that later. Yes, absolutely. So, been a little while since we've been on the microphones here. We took last week off, so we're not going to go over everything. Everybody knows what happened. Everybody knows the score. So, we'll do a little more recently. Let's go back to Sunday against the Blue Jackets. Huge game, much like last night, and the Islanders did show up that night.
They did.
1-0 win, Sorokin Clinic. And they got the early goal there, and they held on. Huge win.
Yeah, and kind of a similar scenario to what they're going to face tonight, coming off Sorokin getting pulled in Montreal.
Right.
Really kind of ended up getting run over by the Canadiens in that game, and you thought, okay, just like we're going to see Sorokin tonight in Buffalo, it's a must-win. You got to have your best goalie in there. And I thought that Columbus game was really one of their best defensive efforts of the season. They got the goal early, like you said, from Bo Horvat. And it wasn't a perfect game, but it was an important one for them to play tight defensively coming off what they did in Montreal. I believe they gave up 17 high-danger chances to the Canadiens. It was kind of a gong show. So they play tight defensively, which you need to do this time of year. Sorokin gets the shutout, makes the saves he needs to make. All is well after a bad night the night before.
Yeah, and I guess that gives you a little hope for tonight, right?
It does.
When you come off a loss like that to Montreal, very similar to last night, 7-3 drubbing, they were able to forget about it. They were able to come back the next night, win a huge game against Columbus, clamp down against them. Now, obviously, Buffalo is a different animal than the Columbus Blue Jackets. This is a team who basically hasn't lost since the Ice Age. So it's going to be a taller task. It's going to be in Buffalo. And obviously tough there, but I guess it gives a little bit of hope, the fact that they were able to kind of get their stuff together there against Columbus.
When in need of representation, it's not always easy to know where to turn. But whether you've been accused of a crime or need to go to court, Razor, Kniff, and Launstein, attorneys at law, have you covered with over 100 years of combined experience. With offices in Manhattan, Mineola, and Suffolk, Razor, Kniff, and Launstein is an award-winning law firm specializing in criminal defense with additional expertise in business debt settlement, trust and estates, personal injury, and more. At Razor, Kniff, and Launstein, you'll have direct access to your attorney 24/7. Because more attentive service translates to better outcomes. You deserve legal representatives with national recognition and a strong track record of delivering results. And Razor, Kniff, and Launstein are ready to fight for you. Call 212-LAW-1500 or go to razorandkniff.com to schedule a free, no-risk consultation today. That's RAISERANDKENNIFF.com. Razor, Kniff, and Launstein. We win cases because we make your problems our problems. Attention all artists, storytellers, and creators of all kinds. It's time to make your content stand out above the rest. And Floored Media is the place to make your visions become a reality. Maybe you want to elevate your podcast and add some video, or turn that novel you wrote into an audiobook. Or maybe you just need the right space to produce your daily vlog. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or just starting out, Floored Media has the professional facilities, exceptional staff, and intimate atmosphere to breathe life into your creative passions at every step of the process.
Thanks for giving some time to our sponsors. Ready to talk more Isles? The train rolls on right here on Hockey Night in New York.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The train rolls on here at Hockey Night in New York, and it is time for On the Line, presented by Razor, Kniff, and Lonstein, attorneys at law, ready to fight for you. And tonight, we are putting Anders Lee on the line.
Good choice.
How do you feel about that, Arthur?
I like it.
Okay, great. So look, this is a name who's come up a lot because, listen, he's a free agent at the end of this season. He has not been re-signed yet, unlike J.G. Pajot. Right. He's the captain of this team, beloved captain of this team, great leader. He's been outstanding ever since taking over for John Tavares, right? But he's getting up there in age. 40 points through 75 games this season, 17 goals, 23 assists, 4 game-winning goals. I mean, pretty much right on par with what he's done throughout his career, right? 40 to 50 points typically. He might have had like a 60, 62-point 1 year. Yeah. But for the most part, he's a 50-point guy, right? So he's almost there. And, you know, you wanna look at this whole situation, and I guess the question is, you know, you look what he brings to this team, not only on the ice, but also off the ice as well. And you see Pajot getting re-signed here. Do you think we're going to see the same thing with Anders Lee?
I don't know if we'll see it in the short term, like, you know, before we get close to the draft in July 1, but I imagine that there's a lot of appetite from Matthew Darche and the organization to bring him back, even if it's just for a year or some low-cost, you know, incentive-laden, bonus-laden type deal. You know, 17 goals is a lot for this team.
Yes,
let's be honest.
Yeah, you're right.
You saw the way he scored the first one last night. He's still a guy who hangs out in the tough spots at his age, 35. I think he brings a lot to the table. You saw, you know, off the face-off, Brady Tkachuk asked him in Ottawa a couple weeks ago,
right?
Can you go? Can you do me this solid? Lee says sure. He fights a guy who's a decade younger. Right. You know, I don't think you can just replace a guy like that, even if he's going to be a third or a fourth line guy next season. The problem is they have a lot of guys like him.
Yes.
A lot of guys who are in their 30s, a lot of guys who contribute enough, but maybe leave you wanting more. But they don't have Anders Lee's pedigree as a guy who's tied now for the longest serving captain. Maybe he is already, maybe he's got, this is the year where he's a little bit longer serving, one more year than Dennis Potvin. I think even you look at stuff like when they were on the road in his home state of Minnesota, where he has everybody to his childhood home, and has everybody out on the pond. He's got jerseys for everyone. That stuff's important. You know, that we talk about intangibles. They're so hard to quantify and really put a value on. But I think when you've got a team that's got this funny mix of guys that have been here a long time and some extremely young guys, you can't overvalue, or I guess undervalue, a leader like him. So I think he'll be back. I would like to see him back. I think a lot depends on what they're able to do in the offseason. I think you look at a guy like Andre Palat, who they acquired, you know, just before the deadline. He's got a year left at a pretty sizable number.
Yes.
Can they move him or buy him out or something like that? Because, you know, I think with Lee, it's not necessarily about what he's going to cost. It's how many guys you have kind of populating this roster and where he fits. So, you know, I think the other part is he's willing to accept any role. He plays well with Pajot and Simon Holmstrom, or he just plays well with Pajot on that third line. So I think his versatility really helps him, and I just think the fact that this team doesn't really know, most of these guys don't know what life as an Islander is like without Anders Lee being the captain. Right. So I think all those factors kind of tell me that he will stay eventually. I don't think it's going to be a huge priority for Matthew Darche once the season ends.
Okay, fair enough. And yeah, I think you probably see him back on a short-term deal. Maybe, like you said, bonus laden. I just have a feeling, especially if they brought Pajot back, I'm like, okay, I think Lee's coming back too. And I think the language that Darche used in that interview after the trade deadline told me that he's probably coming back. We'll obviously see, but that's how I'm looking at it. Now, you talked about how well he's played with Pajot, with Holmstrom. He's been getting a little more time recently with Horvat and Heineman. He's got 4 points his last 5 games, 2 goals, 2 assists. So he's stepping up in these big games when it gets late, despite his age. How do you like him on that line? I
mean, I think he looks good. You know, they're really trying to divide their lines and be a true 4-line team. You know, and not. I think you'd like to see them kind of have some better wingers to be able to kind of fit in that top 6. I think Anders Lee is best suited as a third-line guy, as a power play 2 guy these days. But called into this situation in a pinch, you know, I think the way that Horvat's been playing, he's probably a good guy to play with.
Sure.
And I just think, you know, Anders plays the same game no matter who he's playing with. He gets it on the forecheck. When they've got the puck, he stands in front of the net, takes the abuse, still has pretty good hands. So yeah, I think having a guy who's that versatile, even if he's not producing at the level he once was, is super important for a team that's not that deep on the wings.
Now, should they get there, I should say, how do you think his game is going to translate in the playoffs? Obviously, it's tighter. It's a little bit different in the playoffs. You look at his age. Is he a guy who's going to be able to help, or is he going to be more of a hindrance once they hit the playoffs?
I think he'll help. He's had such rotten playoff luck. You think even back to kind of his first big year in 14-15, where he broke his leg and ended up missing that playoff run. Tore his ACL and missed one of the long playoff runs around the COVID years. So it's just you sort of assume that he's been a big part of a lot of these things, and he has in the regular season, just not been able to kind of carry it through in the playoffs. So I think he'll help. I think the lineup that they've got some options. They've got Duclair's coming in tonight for Simon Holmstrom. They've got Shabanov. So I feel like they can find the right combinations to be effective. For me, I think Lee is most effective with Pajot and being more of a checking role. And if they play at Pittsburgh, they play at Columbus. These are young, fast teams. I think he's a guy who's smart enough now at his stage. Never fast, but at least he can keep up with the play. Sure.
Now, you talk about the impact in the playoffs. I agree with you. I think he's going to do well there as well. But I guess you look at this aging roster that we're talking about here, right? You just noted that, and they added to it.
They did.
Kind of unnecessarily, right? They brought in Palat.
How do you really feel, Sean? Come on, let it out.
Well, listen, we can talk about that in a moment. Okay. But just to put this all out there, I mean, when you have that concern of a roster kind of getting up there in age, right, and have an effect on the ice, foot speed and all that, right? Obviously, it plays into it. And when you're Matthew Darsh and you have to decide, okay, this is a respected veteran, a respected leader here. He's a guy I might want to bring back. But then you kind of scratch your head when you see guys like Palat and Schenn brought in. And granted, Schenn's actually looked very good. Palat's another story right now. But is this something you want to kind of keep going here for the next couple of years when you have Schenn 2 more years? You have Palat at least for another year, right? You have Pajot for another 3 years after this. And we all forget about Kyle Palmieri because he's been hurt. He's another guy up there as well. So you have all of these guys well into their 30s. And don't get me wrong, I love Anders Lee. At the end of the day, I'm fine if he does come back. But should he come back when you consider all of these guys that are already up there?
Well, I feel like, they're so thin on the wings, and you look at the top 6 right now. Like Lee is there, but Heineman is a young guy who's popped pretty well. I know he's got some flaws, but he's shown out pretty well for his first year.
20-plus goals.
Cal Ritchie is playing the wing on the second line with Schenn, and Barzal's on the other side. So that's 3 of their younger guys. Simon Holmstrom has gotten a little bit of run up there. He's a young guy. So I feel like they've got some guys in place. Center is where they're aging for sure. But I think when you hear Matthew Darsh talk, he is justifying the Schenn trade and the Pajot signing by saying centers are hard to come by. You look at the market for the centers, and this summer, really, there's going to be none available as free agents. The big talk is maybe the Rangers will trade Vincent Trocheck and they could get a big haul for him. But there's not a lot of guys out there.
Right.
So he made the move for Schenn, who's got a couple more years, extends Pajot, so you're set down the middle. And on the wings is maybe where you can tinker free agency, a trade. But that just, to me, you've got Lee on one side with Pajot as a third-line guy, maybe even a fourth-line guy if you can, tinker things a little bit, because he could play with Cizikas, I would think. I just think he's not really going to block anybody from being acquired from a young guy jumping up. So you've got Ritchie, who's probably going to be a wing for the foreseeable future. You've got Heineman, you've got Holmstrom, you've got Barzal. That's their young cohorts up front.
Right.
So if you put those guys in the top 6, then you're kind of populating your bottom 6 with maybe some more fill-in guys. If you don't re-sign Anders Lee, you're going to have to go out and get a guy who plays like Anders Lee.
Fair enough.
That's the way I look at it. So.
Okay, fair enough. Decent argument.
Okay.
So do these guys almost serve as a stopgap for the young guys coming up to the system? You have Yzerman and Eklund now with Bridgeport, soon to be Hamilton. And I think they both. I know Eklund had a shootout goal that won a game for them. I think Yzerman scored his first goal last night. I think it was. So what's their trajectory? Maybe a year or two away, and that's kind of the purpose that these guys are serving here. The Lees, the Palats, the Schenns.
Yeah, I mean, I think Eklund maybe has a shorter timeline than Yzerman. He's younger, but he did play in a pretty high level pro league in Sweden this year. We'll see if he can make the team next year. I personally don't think so, but he could certainly surprise. And Yzerman, I think, probably a full AHL season away at the very least. Then you've got Quinn Finley, who's going to be in the Frozen Four from Wisconsin. Maybe he gets in the mix. So, you know, I don't know if Anders Lee is a guy that's going to block anybody. You know, you've got some contracts there like Palat, like Duclair, Shabanov, who, you know, is a free agent after this year, RFA, since he just signed for the 1 year. Those are guys, I think, those are the contracts you probably want to get rid of in the summer. Lee, to me, if he signs for $3 million, $4 million, you're not denting the cap very much, and you've still got your leader there. So I feel like not really blocking them or holding a place for when those guys get ready. I think he just has his role, and I think it's probably going to be a little bit more defined next season. I would hope so, because you want those younger guys taking those top 6 spots.
For sure. And since it came up, just so happens that the AHL, the Board of Governors, approved the move to Hamilton today. Going from Bridgeport to Hamilton, I guess not only logistically, but what are your thoughts on just the fact that the Islanders are taking that operation that was there for 25 years, obviously local, very convenient there, right? If you have a guy,
for sure. I love going there.
Yes, no question about it. But even if you need to call up a guy in a pinch, right?
Yeah.
Pretty simple, pretty easy. Now, if they find themselves in that situation, you got a guy not only coming from Hamilton, which is much further away, but he's got to cross the border to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that the planning and logistics would be simple enough. You know, now they have the rule when you send a guy down, he has to play a game in the AHL before you can call him back up. So I think that maybe means, you know, those paper transactions are a little bit less likely to happen.
Right, sure.
But yeah, it's a business decision by the Islanders ownership. You know, Bridgeport, when they first came in, the Sound Tigers brand was an exciting one down there, kind of slotting in for an Islanders fan base that doesn't exist in a big way in that part of Connecticut. It really is a lot of Ranger fans and kind of the further you go up, Bruins fans, which was always exemplified by that one preseason game they'd play there over the years. And it was either against the Bruins or the Rangers. And man, there were a lot of visiting jerseys in that, because I remember covering a lot of those. And really, you know, I think just not having a ton of success, the team success in the AHL is a difficult standard to set, because you're really just trying to develop guys. And you think back to the defensemen that Garth Snow had there that developed, you know, that are still mainstays. Polak, Pelech, Mayfield, Devon Taves, who, you know, was
still a sore topic for me.
Okay, well, we won't bring it up too much. But those guys cut their teeth there multiple seasons in the AHL. And, you know, I think they built a real identity. And you know, I think changing the name from Sound Tigers to Islanders was a misstep. You know, they had their own identity. It was a little bit more independent. And just the lack of success, it became a tougher operation to find success, to find fans. So it's a sad day, I think. You know, I think Islander fans having it just over, you know, taking a ferry up there if you're really a diehard to go see a game, certainly a lot less expensive option than an NHL game, and a nice little building too. You know, I always like taking my family there. It's a fun place to see a game. But Hamilton, I think, you know, being in Canada, being in Ontario, being in a place that almost got an NHL team 15, 20 years ago. I think it's kind of a step up. There's a little bit more prestige that goes with it. Maybe you get a little bit more media attention. Maybe, you know, when ownership is there, when the GM is there, you make the media rounds in Toronto. You get to kind of be seen up there. It means something, I think, to the Islanders owners that there's something more attractive to them than just outside the local area. So bittersweet, I would say. Yeah,
for sure. And I guess, you know, a little silver lining, I suppose, for Bridgeport is last I checked, they were in a playoff spot, so they have the opportunity to go out with a little bit of a
nice
bang
way
here.
to go out.
Yeah.
And really nice, you know, Rocky Thompson, I think, has done a good job this first year there. I do worry if John Tortorella stays in Vegas after they made that change. Rocky Thompson was his assistant for a long time in Philly.
Interesting.
So we'll see how that goes. But I like what they're building, and really, you know, we're going to see an influx of promising prospects there over the next couple of years. Yzerman and Eklund being in right now. Kayshawn Aitchison will be there. It's when his season ends, if they're still going. Next season, after next season, you know, Quinn Finley will be there once Wisconsin finishes in all likelihood. Danny Nelson after next Notre Dame season in all likelihood. So they're going to be guys people will want to watch. So, I imagine a lot of AHL TV subscriptions for Islander fans instead of being able to go up there and watch them in person.
Absolutely. So let's reel it back into Anders Lee real quick. We put him on the line. I'm putting you on the line now. Does Anders Lee score a goal tonight against the Sabres?
No.
Okay, fair
Sorry
enough.
to disappoint,
He's an honest man, folks. He's an honest man. All right, fair enough. Well, that will do it for On the Line, presented by Razor, Kniff, and Lonstein Attorneys at Law. We're going to take one more break. We'll be right back. Yeah.
When in need of representation, it's not always easy to know where to turn. But whether you've been accused of a crime or need to go to court, Razor, Kniffen, Lonstein, attorneys at law, have you covered with over 100 years of combined experience. With offices in Manhattan, Mineola, and Suffolk, Razor, Kniffen, Lonstein is an award-winning law firm specializing in criminal defense with additional expertise in business debt settlement, trust and estates, personal injury, and more. At Razor, Kniffen, Lonstein, you'll have direct access to your attorney 24/7. Because more attentive service translates to better outcomes. You deserve legal representatives with national recognition and a strong track record of delivering results. And Razor, Kniffen, Lonstein are ready to fight for you. Call 212-LAW-1500 or go to razorandkniff.com to schedule a free, no-risk consultation today. That's RAISERANDKENNIFF.com. Razor, Kniffen, Lonstein. We win cases because we make your problems our problems.
Hey there, welcome back. We missed you too. Now kick up your feet and settle back in to Hockey Night in New York.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is Hockey Night in New York. We are about 20 minutes away from puck drop for the New York Islanders versus the Buffalo Sabres. But now it is time to go what's on tap, and we will start with tonight's tilt against the mighty Buffalo Sabres. They are coming off of 2 nights rest, 32-6-2 since firing Kevin Adams and hiring Kekalainen. Unbelievable numbers there. Arthur, what happened with this team?
My psychoanalysis of them is, Kevin Adams came to them out of coaching youth hockey in the Buffalo Junior Sabres organization. He's a friend of Terry Pegula, the owner.
Okay, yeah.
I think there was a lot of feeling that maybe he wasn't fully qualified to get this job.
Sure.
They passed up a lot of good candidates. This past offseason, they bring Jarmo in as an advisor or assistant GM. I think they talked to Lou Lamoriello about a possible role there, so that would be hilarious if this was a situation that happened because Lou took over.
Yes.
But I think maybe for that team that's missed the playoffs 14 consecutive seasons and has plenty of talent, obviously, based on what they're doing, I think it was just an example. It was just they needed someone in the organization, in ownership, to show them that they were serious. So they get rid of Kevin Adams, who put together a pretty good team.
Sure.
They bring Jarmo in. He's a guy who's been around. He was Columbus's GM for a long, long time. Lindy Ruff, who's been the coach there forever in 2 different stints.
Right.
And something just clicked for them. Changing a GM shouldn't impact anything
So
in the
weird,
middle of the
right?
season unless
Yeah.
you're making a blockbuster trade.
Like a coach, sure.
Yeah. So I think it was just the light went off and they said, okay, ownership is taking this thing seriously. We're not dealing with someone who's not been around. And I think it just, everybody just kind of clicked. You're really impressed by guys like Rasmus Dahlin, who's, been the captain there for a little bit. Tage Thompson, who's got ties to Long Island. His dad was coaching here for a long time. They've made some good additions. Guys like Jason Zucker having good years. So yeah, it's been shocking and in a good way. I have a couple of good friends that are from the Buffalo area who are big Sabres fans, and they're loving it.
They've been waiting a long time.
It's a great fan base, and I think they've been kind of kicked around for a long, long time, which Islander fans can certainly understand.
Yes.
So when things get good, everyone's really excited.
Do you think we'll see more mid-season GM firings after this example's been set?
I don't think so. We did just see one with Toronto yesterday.
Right.
That's not. I don't
A
know
little
if we
late
call
for
that
that,
mid-season, but
Right.
yeah, it's not going to turn it around for them.
Yeah, usually it's the coach to see what happened in Columbus, right, with Bonus coming in, turn them right around.
Or Vegas pulling the late season.
Yeah,
one
what do
with-
you make of that? The Fedoric special.
It's the blueprint. That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you're a confident GM, a guy who and Kelly McCrimmon has overseen some really good teams there in Vegas.
Yeah.
I think if you know when things are good and when things are not good, and you can't change the players out this late, and there's a real opportunity there in that division because nobody's really stepped forward. So yeah, I applaud it. I don't know, the fact that they just have Torts through the end of the season. It's kind of a curious one, but
Yes.
Torts is Torts. He does get results.
Yes, he does. So to reel it back into Buffalo here, they're obviously battling not only for tops in the Atlantic, but also in the Eastern Conference, which is really wild to say. But Arthur, you're going to love this very important stat here that might help the Islanders tonight. They are the worst face-off team in the league.
Sabres?
Yes.
That's how I feel about face-offs, as you know.
Well documented here on the show.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly not affected them because they obviously gotten the puck back once or twice. So.
Right.
And the Islanders are very good at faceoffs. So maybe,
They are.
Maybe
it could be the difference.
Maybe this will be the reason that
It
they
might
win
be
tonight.
the difference. But more seriously, what do the New York Islanders have to do tonight to beat these Sabres?
Play simple.
Okay.
Play simple. Play strong on the puck. Don't give away anything. Play like you care.
Play like a mean it. Okay.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. So, huge game tonight, much bigger after the result last night, of course, against the Penguins. That one hurt a lot. It puts a much bigger onus on grabbing 2 points tonight. A lot of games going on tonight as well, which could very much affect their standing in the standings. So, let's move on to Friday. Suddenly, another big game for the Islanders because the Flyers refuse to lose now. 8-1-1, I think, in their last 10?
They're all big.
Fair. You're right, Arthur. They are all big. We have, 7 left, so I suppose they
All
are.
big.
Yes, a lot of teams nipping at their heels, but add another one to the pot, the Philadelphia Flyers. Like I said, 8-1-1 last 10. Late surge here into the playoff mix. 9 shootout wins, 9-4. 2 of their shootout wins came versus the Islanders way back in the early going of the season. This is a team that the Islanders have kind of had some tough goes with. You know, speaking of those shootout wins for the Flyers, they always seem to be tight games. Taka gets them up for the Islanders. What do you see there?
Yeah, I'm genuinely surprised. You know, I've been focused on those top 10 teams, whether it's Ottawa or Detroit, Columbus, and they've kind of snuck back in there with this good run that they've had. And now they're adding kind of their stud prospect in Porter Martone, came in from Michigan State, making his debut tonight, I think, against Washington. And then, you know, I think if things go the way that they usually go for the Islanders, if he doesn't score tonight, pretty much guaranteed first NHL goal against the Islanders.
Yes.
Seems to happen every time. But
100%.
But yeah, I'm less worried about the Flyers than I am about, say, Ottawa, who the Islanders do also have before the season ends. And really, you know, again, like we talked about, you're ahead of these teams. Win the games you need to win. Even if that one goes to a shootout, get the extra point, keep that team behind you.
Right.
You know, they played tight, close games with them, so hopefully that's the blueprint that they'll use to go forward here.
And Arthur, wouldn't you know that the 1-1 in that 8-1-1 record, both of those losses came to the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Of course.
Right. Of course. Nothing helping the Islanders these days. Now we'll move on to Saturday the 4th in Carolina. We are very familiar with the Islanders' struggles with the Carolina Hurricanes, and this one will be up or down in Carolina, I should say. Gostisbehere, basically a point-per-game player. I know he was out for some games, but he's been playing very well. Obviously, you have the usual suspects, Aho, Jarvis, Svechnikov. Ehlers having a good season over there now. This is going to be a very tough matchup for the Islanders.
You know, and I don't want to project ahead, but if the Islanders win these next 2 games and they go into Carolina and let's say, okay, the heat is off in terms of the playoff chase and they decide to go with David Riddick, kind of feel like they have 4 days off after that. I would like to see Sorokin play all of these. And to me, the most important thing is the Islanders do not want to see the Hurricanes in the first round. I'm not that
none of us do.
Threatened by Carolina this season because their goaltending really hasn't been that strong lately.
Yeah.
And I think they're giving up a lot more chances than they used to. But to me, why even have that on the table? Because you know what way it's gone the last 2 times the Islanders played them in the playoffs. Carolina, they've perfected the art of scoring wacky goals. That's really the kind of their MO.
Especially against the Islanders.
They get into the Islanders zone. They get them moving all around. You really have to be 100% on your defensive game and attention to detail to keep them from doing what they do. And we know from watching the Islanders this season, and especially in the last month, that has not been the Islanders' MO.
Yes, and not to bring up bad memories, but the last time these 2 teams met, it was a 6-2 loss back in late October. So, yeah, we're familiar with what the Hurricanes can do to the Islanders.
But hopefully the Islanders have learned their lesson.
Yes, indeed. So that will do it for What's on Tap. It's time to move on to Hero of the Week. You got it, brother.
There you go.
All right, folks, it is time to talk about Islanders who did pretty good in the last week. So, Arthur,
Me first?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Please, if you would.
I'm going to go with Braden Shen.
Nice. I like it.
I didn't love the trade when it was made. I got to be honest.
It was a mixed bag, yeah.
I was a little bit on the fence about the
Sure.
trade because I felt like it was, especially with signing J.G. Pageau, I thought they were duplicating efforts. I feel I stand corrected. I sit corrected here today because I think he's played really well. He looks really good with Cal Ritchie. You know, playing with Barzal, he seems to be able to keep up. He's producing 8 points, I think it is, in 10 or 11, 12 games.
Yeah, 12, I think, yeah.
Takes his face-offs, which I know you love.
You hate.
He could kill penalties if they needed him to. I just think he looks really refreshed, and that's important not just for the rest of this season, whatever happens, but having him for 2 more years, he fits with what they do. So you could see him being a 20-goal, 40, 50-point guy, and that is an important. That's a good standard to set for number 2 center on this team. So I feel like, apologies to Braden Shen, I didn't love the trade, but I love what he's doing now.
Yeah, I think you have to be pleasantly surprised, right? And it took him a few games to kind of get his skates under his feet, on his feet, whatever the phrase
Close
is.
enough.
Yeah, fine. But the point is that he's playing well, he's contributing, and I think the concern is just how he's going to age over these next couple of years, right? I mean, he's playing well now in this playoff race late in the season. I expect him to be a playoff performer if they get there. I think
He has
he's gonna
been in the past,
for
for
sure. So I think he's going to be a huge factor if they get there. I think the concern is, especially at his contract, 6.5, not 1 but 2 years after this, and he just gets deeper into his 30s, and then you wonder how badly that's going to age, if it ages badly at all.
Yep, and I like I said, I think I like what I see. You know, if Cal Ritchie, who's acquiring Braden Shen, like we said, makes Cal Ritchie is going to be a wing for a little while.
Right.
If there's some chemistry there, and Cal Ritchie, who I think has produced really well since Shen has been here, they have a good chemistry. If that's 2/3 of your second line, and you can slot in whether it's a Holmstrom or a Barzal or somebody to be determined, that's great. You're looking to fill roles, and the Islanders are never going to be a team that's got a bunch of 80, 90-point guys. It's just not the way that they're built.
Right.
Not age, whatever style of play. So I was just looking more, does he fit with these guys? Can he produce with these guys? And I think the answer so far is yes.
Yeah.
Gives me some hope for next year. You don't have to worry about 27, 28. That's way off.
Right.
So yeah, I give it to him, and I liked what I've seen, and we'll see, that captain pedigree. He's been a Stanley Cup champion. The Blues had an incredible run last season with him as captain, where nobody thought that they were going to do much. These are important games here, and we've talked a lot about Anders Lee being the leader of this team. It's nice to see other people step up, not just on the ice, but in the room. So we'll see what he's got in store for these last few games.
No doubt. Well, you mentioned Cal Ritchie, and wouldn't you know it?
Sorry, I didn't mean to bogart your...
Oh, that's okay, buddy.
Okay.
No, it's a great setup.
Get after it.
Cal Ritchie is my hero of the week, and I think he's looked great.
Yep.
He's looked excellent. He's progressing nicely, putting up points. Willing to go to the dirty areas, front of the net, board battles. I like what I'm seeing, and his passing is just tremendous.
Yeah.
Very clever, very sneaky, and always on the tape.
I think seeing him and his hockey IQ at his young age, being able to play the wing, he's not just a center. I think he understood, too, that maybe center was not going to be in his future right now. But yeah, he's really been adaptable, and I think that's important for someone his age. And he's got 25, 26 points. I feel like he could easily double that for next year if he gets a more consistent role.
Yes, I have high hopes for him. So, folks, that will do it for Hero of the Week, Braden Shen and Cal Ritchie. And now I'm going to tell you guys about Isles Fix. That's right, Islanders country. Get your daily fix of Isles news, highlights, and analysis by subscribing to Isles Fix, the Monday through Friday Islanders newsletter, sent directly to your inbox. Sign up for free or become a paid subscriber for added benefits at ilesfix.substack.com. And now we're going to take it to Questions Brewing.
It's time for Questions Brewing. So go ahead, ask us a question.
That's right, folks. It's time for Questions Brewing. Jay Belsky, how we doing over there, buddy?
Not bad.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
There he
Thank
is.
you.
Yeah, sitting low over there. You comfortable?
Not bad.
Okay, great. Great. Good to have you. So how are we doing in the chat, man? We got some questions or what?
Yes, the chat is on fire.
Love to hear that.
The fans have showed up and they demand that their questions be
Well,
answered.
I can't wait to hear them. What do you got for us?
All right, number one, we got Thomas asking, so many eyes from around the league were on yesterday's big game. That performance cost Sorokin the Vezina.
Ooh.
What do we think here?
It could. I sort of maintain that winning the awards, you got to make the playoffs. And I
Yeah,
understand
yeah,
he's been the best goalie by the numbers, by the goalie's metrics. He might not still be right now after that one because that was a bad performance.
Yes.
But if he can right the ship, then yeah, I think he'll still get it. But I think when it comes to voting, I've been a voter for the awards for almost 20 years now. Just to make it clear to everybody out there, the writers do not vote for the Vezina. That is the league's general managers. So you can appeal to them.
Send a letter.
They all know about the metrics, too. They all know about goals saved above expectation. And I think they all understand that, a team that gets in because of one player, whether San Jose gets in, I think you'll see Macklin Celebrini get some Hart Trophy votes,
Sure.
well deserved.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorokin, outside of Matthew Schaefer's been a great story, but I think the GMs know, looking at the numbers, Ilya Sorokin is reasons 1, 2, and 3 why the Islanders are even here contending for a playoff spot. So if he's able to shut the door tonight, right the ship, I don't think he's lost it. I understand that Andrei Vasilevsky in Tampa has had a very good year, kind of a surprising year for them with all their injuries. So it could be a wild card, but I feel like Sorokin's still the number one guy for the moment.
Okay, there you have it. Very well said. Next.
All right, next we got William asking, did last night's game change your thoughts on which team you'd want to face in the hypothetical round 1 of playoffs?
Yeah, I guess if you're thinking about Pittsburgh after last night, it gives you a bit of a scare, right? But I mean, the regular season results really don't translate into the playoffs, So I don't know. I mean, listen, you said it earlier, right? Maybe anybody but Carolina. Maybe we can start there, right?
I'd also go anybody but Columbus. I don't think I'd want to face them if they get in.
That's fair, but I mean, if you're aiming at that 2-3 spot, which I think ultimately is where, if the Islanders get in, that's where they're going to end up. I mean, it's going to be a rat race between them, the Pens, and Columbus, and I guess it's pick your poison. And Columbus has slowed down a little bit more recently, so maybe that makes you feel a little bit better about playing them, but. I think you kind of just dust last night off, and I don't think you're intimidated playing the Penguins if you end up playing them in the playoffs.
When the Islanders were actually trying in that game, it was 3-1 Islanders. So
yeah, that's true.
Can put that and also if you're concerned, as I am, about the history with Carolina, then you should be encouraged by the history against Pittsburgh, because last 2 times they played them in the playoffs, it really, the Penguins kind of handed both of those series away. So. I think out of all those teams, I'd rather face Pittsburgh.
The only problem is they don't have a who do they send up to Edmonton?
Tristan Jarry.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And
no
we don't
Tristan
have Josh Bailey to score in overtime, so it's a wash, really.
Yes, indeed. All right, Jay, what do you got?
All right, Thomas Boyle, your buddy.
Hey,
DB.
T-Boyle, what's up?
Would you like the Islanders to hire Torts or Berube this summer?
Well, looks like Torts is taken.
Torts is
At least
out.
for now.
Sorry, Thomas. I had a fleeting thought when I saw the Vegas move that I suggested to a friend of mine. What if Lou was still the GM right now, the guy that pioneered the late season coaching switch?
Yeah.
Would Bruce Cassidy be coaching this game tonight for the Islanders?
You can't rule it out.
Or Peter DeBoer, who's coached for Lou before?
True.
I think if they miss the playoffs, we've had this discussion before. I think it's a legitimate question, and it's going to be a legitimate decision for Matthew Darche whether to keep Patrick Waugh. There's been moments, I think we both thought last night, there should have been some, maybe you call a timeout at 3-3.
Sure.
Maybe you pull your goalie after the second period. There's been some situations where you say to yourself, is this coach the right guy for this group? He wants them to play fast. Offensively, it works for them. Defensively, it absolutely does not.
For sure.
So if they're not going to change out all of their players. So I do wonder if they miss, and they miss in kind of a spectacular fashion where they continue to play poorly defensively. Is Matthew Darche finished with his evaluation of Patrick Waugh? Does he say this is the guy for us, or does he say, look, we've got Peter DeBoer is out there, Bruce Cassidy is out there, Peter Laviolette is out there, guys that have won in this league. Peter DeBoer's not won a Stanley Cup; he's been to the finals a ton.
Yes.
But coaches. We're in a golden age of coaches that can come in and affect change with a good team right away. That's going to be very tempting, I think, for Matthew Darche.
Well, let me follow up with this real quick. Is playoffs enough for Waugh to stick around, or if they do one round and done, does that potentially still?
I think it could still be on the table.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, it's about the quality of the coaches that are currently unemployed.
Sure.
And it's hard to ignore. I know fans are out there saying, like, oh, more retreads. Well, look around the league. The guys that have coached before are the ones that win.
Right.
And if the Islanders are missing a couple of key ingredients and you can't change out a lot of the roster, you change the coach and you bring in a guy like a Laviolette who instant turnaround with every team except his first one 25 years ago with the Islanders. But you get the results. Peter DeBoer, you're going to get results that first year. So it is going to be a hard one to ignore.
Yes. Jay, one, maybe two quick ones before puck drop here.
Okay. Does it make sense to continuously play Palat and Soucy over George, Duke, and Shab, or is it just the GM refusing to admit his mistakes? Obviously, Homie's injury aside.
Well, I mean that those decisions come down to Patrick Waugh, not
I would think
Darche,
so.
right? Yeah.
I mean, Soucy, he wasn't good last night, and he's had his moments, but I think he's been okay.
Sure.
I think they're always going to go for a guy who's experienced and calm in those moments instead of a younger guy, which is too bad. Palat playing over Duclair, different role for me. I don't think Duclair has been very effective as a fourth liner.
Yeah.
Palat has also not been effective as a fourth liner. I should make sure to point out.
Unfortunately.
But I feel like Palat could probably do with sitting here if he has another ineffective game, and you could at least, you have that fourth line. You could put Shabanov, you could put Duclair in on the third line and have a little bit better impact.
Fair enough. And when it comes to Soucy, and I understand why it's been a pairing, but I feel like Soucy and Mayfield together
I never want to see that again.
Just a problem.
Awful.
Yeah,
Awful.
just a problem having those guys together. And you've seen some separation here more recently, and wouldn't you know, they look better, especially Soucy.
Yeah, outside of last night, totally agree.
Right, yeah, for sure. All right, one more quick one, Jay, and then
This
we're
is
going
a
to wrap this
quick
up.
one. Thomas Boyle again. Do the
Okay.
Islanders make the playoffs?
Okay, simple as that. I'm an eternal optimist, so I'm going to say yes, and I think they're going to fall into one of those 2 or 3 spots in the Metro. Arthur.
Yes, but wild card.
Uh-oh. So is it going to be Buffalo, Tampa, or Carolina?
I can't see
Remains to
that
be
far in the
seen.
future.
All right, fair enough. Well, there you have it, folks. That will do it for Questions Brewing. Thank you so much for getting your questions in live here during the show. If we didn't get to your question, we will try to get to it next week. And that's going to do it for the show. So, Jay, wrap it up, buddy. All right, want to send a huge thanks to Chris and Tony's here in Syosset. Phenomenal spot. Great crowd as well. Huge thanks to Alan and Keith for putting this together. Very much appreciated. We had a lot of fun with you guys. Thank you so much. Yes, yes, yes. And a huge thanks, of course, to our sponsor, Razor, Kniff, and Lonstein, attorneys at law. Nobody likes going to court, but if you have to, call 212-LAW-1500 for a free consultation. And folks, if you have not done it already, please rate, review, and subscribe. We very much appreciate it. Arthur Staple, where can we find you?
Stape NHL on Twitter, also on Blue Sky, and eating some good food here at Chris and Tony's in about 2 minutes. Which is
Cannot
awesome.
wait to do that. You can follow myself on Twitter and Blue Sky at Shoney Hockey. You can follow the show on all social media platforms at Hockey Night NY. You can go to the website at hockeynightny.com. And that's going to do it for us. We're going to enjoy some food. We're going to enjoy some Islanders Sabres. So for Arthur Staple, for Jay Belsky, I've been Sean Cuthbert. We've been Hockey Night in New York. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.